You got to get somebody else in there. That's good to know, right? So that's things that we can't train. That we got to know that about a person to determine whether they're a fit or not. All right? And it begins with that self-knowledge. The most important work here is the foundational work about who we are. And then as we build a team, do we fit together, right? Because then we can build on that foundation. As we form the groups past that leadership team, we got to start thinking about practices, hiring, discipline, training, all those kind of things. Are they aligning with our values? Or are we violating them right and left? Because, you know, if you've got a rogue manager and you're not addressing it, and that rogue manager is running people off right and left, and you're not dealing with that, that totally sends the message that our values are not important. But when you address it quickly, right, and you make the stand on a values basis, people say, you know, he really means it. And people need that reminder that you really mean it, right? Your behavior is the most important thing. And walking your own talk is the beginning of strong values. So we talk here as we move forward, directional, right? So repeat the values often. When you have team meetings, read your mission statement, read your value statement. Maybe somebody says, here's why this a part of it is important. How did this mission statement came to be? Why do we still believe it? What does that look like? Talk about that. Never take for granted that people understand it and can connect the dots between behavior and words, right? So repeat it. You need to repeat it. Your leaders need to repeat it. And set the bar high. A lot of people think if you're good on the soft skills, if you've got good focus on the people aspect, that means you're going to be, you know, too people-oriented and not have accountability or high expectations. Nothing could be further from the truth. Think about it. The best coaches in the world are coaches. I don't care if you're Little League. You know, there's a book in my library about this high school coach that's like been the dominant high school football team for the last 35 years. How do you do that? How do you do that? Unless you have a focus on the kids and the processes and hold the standards high. Can a kid come in and just say, I'm going to play at my own level, I'm going to do what I want to do? No, the coach says, you're going to meet my expectation. If you want to play, if you want to start, you want to be on this team, here's the expectation. And to this day, when you think about an employer of choice, to be an employer of choice, it looks like that. Hey, this is who we are. This is how we treat our people. Join us, don't join us, but this is what it's going to look like, right? We're not going to change for you. We're not going to accommodate for you, no matter where you went to school, no matter what your background is. This is going to be who we are. And we will terminate you, exit you from the company if you do not fit well in this culture. So we set the bar high. We have certain non-negotiables. I shared the story about the Atlanta GM. One of the more pivotal points when I reflect on kind of my values and my culture is I was a young manager. My first assignment as a corporate manager was in Kansas City. It was a startup, and I don't know what happened. A lady went there, kind of opened the office, and then left after 6 months. So we had like 5 or 6 people. I mean, it was just, and we were a brand new startup, and there was a property that was a competitor, very established, called like Wheeler Dealer or something like that. And so we were the Trading Times or Auto Trading Times. Make a long story short, man, I was going to make my mark, right? I'm going to impress my boss. I'm going to really, do a great job. So I was working long hours. And, I was very deliberate. I thought, I'm going to call him one night. This was way before cell phones, right? So I called about 7:30 from the office. And I knew he wasn't going to be there. But the goal was he's going to see that I called, right? And I'm working late. And I left the message, hey, give me a buzz. I'd love to talk to you about this particular issue tomorrow. So even though Bill Reith, my VP, my mentor, really wonderful guy, saw him twice a year. We talked on the phone almost every day. So this is kind of how that phone call went when he called me back. So he called, what's up? So we talked about whatever the issue was. I have no idea what the issue was now when I think about it. But we got done discussing the issue, and he said, hey, kind of noticed you called at like 7:30 last night. What's with that? Oh, Bill, just got a lot to do. Really excited. I'm gonna get it, man. I'm pumped. I'm gonna turn this thing around. He's like, I get that, but just so you kind of understand where I'm coming from is we really believe. I really believe that you could do this job, 40, 45, 50 hours a week, and if you feel like you need to work longer than that, maybe I got the wrong guy. Oh, all right. Okay, I hear you. Powerful, never forgotten. I was 29, 30 years old. What was he saying? Work hard. Right?
Work smart.
Work smart. You're not impressing me with 6. That's not how you're going to impress me. And really, he worked. He was there 7:30, 8 o'clock, and he worked till 5-ish, right? And he worked hard. He had an apple for lunch. He never went out to lunch unless he was traveling, right? And he worked a good 8, 9 hours a day, right? Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't work over, but he went home to a wife he loved, 2 children he loved, and he had a family life. And his thing was, you can do both, right? You don't need to sacrifice one for the other. And he made that message profoundly clear to me, that is about the results. And I think that's the kind of message we're sending. In other words, what's it like working here, Tom? And we've been to places where it's like, I need you here. No health tells, right? I need you here on Saturday. It's not like, can you work it out? It's like, I need you here Saturday. Well, what do you mean, I need you here Saturday. I need you here Sunday. I need you here till whatever. And that kind of disrespect for people and what's really important. Because let's face it, is the job the most important thing? Absolutely not. Now, it's how we survive, but when you think about what's important in your life, how many things are ahead of that? I hope you have several things ahead of that, right? Family, faith, people, right? Friends. There's things that should have much more meaning to you, and you're working in order to do and enjoy those things. And he sent that message very loud and clear. So we need to set the bar high, and he set the bar high on work-life balance. I mean, this is what I expect from you, Michael. And he held me accountable. Just another quick story about Bill. This is back, I don't know, are you old enough to remember green bar paper?
Yes.
Yes. I know the rest of you guys remember green. So once a week, was it once a week, once a month? I guess at the closeout, right? When they closed out the month. So as GMs, we were responsible for P&L, right? Profit and loss of our particular operation. So we'd get an overnight package, big, thick, green bar paper. And we were going to get a call, because it was delivered, always had the morning delivery. We were going to get a call before the end of the day. And I had to scour that thing for any aberrations, anything out of norm, anything out of budget, in any weird way, and I had to have an answer. And the only bad answer, the only wrong answer was, I don't know. You just didn't give that answer. It was not acceptable. And that was just fascinating for me because it made you better. The bar was high. Man, but it was clear. I knew what was expected. So it wasn't like, well, this day it's this, and one year it's this. No, the bar was high, the bar was consistently high, and the expectations were clear. And let me tell you, we went to some training. They brought all the managers together, like in 1989, 90. It's like 55 of us. And again, we ended up with 85 managers. And the guy came in and did some training. We talked about how to build a team, how to recruit, did the DISC assessment, right? And what leaders look like. And we really early on, that 55 was very dispersed, and he was talking about the DI temperament. Within a year or two, we go back to training, 10% are gone, 10% more are gone. By the time we were done, about 80, 85, 90% were DI people that shared the values of the company. They got clear on what they wanted. The leadership team got clear on what it looked like, and then they started making it happen. Because I've got this down here. We can espouse values, right? So when we talk here, what values do you espouse? but then what values are enacted? And this directional part here is the values enacted. It's these processes where your values are lived out day to day. Every process that you put in place that becomes SOP, right? It should align well with your values. In other words, one value, trade and publishing, termination should never be a surprise. Ever. Ever. If it is, shame on you. I mean, you get in all kinds of trouble. You had to walk people through the disciplinary process, be very clear, transparent about, what they were doing wrong, and, right, that helped them change, helped them adjust their behavior, or we didn't feel bad about terminating them. And so before we do the final here, I want you to share with me, I asked you to do that. So name a value or two if you're having trouble with picking just one. If you were to talk about or espouse a value in your team, your organization, you were to describe yourself in this kind of this way here, what things about you that haven't been trained but just are a part of who you are. What values would you share? What did you want to share, Eddie?
So, one of the ones that came up for me was just respect for clients and customers as well as co-workers alike.
Okay.
So it's in how we treat and talk about people on and offline. So we don't have a conversation with, man, that customer was just awful. They were just so, they didn't know what they were doing, but we don't need that. That's not a helpful conversation. It's not showing respect, regardless of even if they're there.
Great example. Have you ever sat in your boss's office and the boss just ripped another employee, talk about another employee and, how I wish, blah, 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 and you get up and you're thinking, I wonder if he's going to be talking about me to the next employee, right? I mean, when you do that, it just makes people just say, it's just not good. It's not bad. It's bad form. It's just not respect.
Yeah.
I want to respect you. I want you to respect me, and I got to live that, right? I got to be that. I can't just talk about it. I got to live it, right? What would you add to that, Tom?
Well, I'm trying to think of the word. I don't know if it's honesty or trustworthiness, but I'm in a kind of cash business, and if you steal from me, you're gone.
Yeah.
Integrity.
Yeah. And honesty is a piece of integrity, right? Integrity is just kind of where all the parts and pieces all fit together to make the whole. And honesty is a piece of integrity, right? And you're right. I mean, I was broke and, I'll pay you back. There'll be people who probably say, okay, that's okay. Yeah, sure. And I bet Al could speak to this as well. If I was to just take 100 customers that I've met and done business with over the years, I bet between 5 and 10, maybe 12 to 15% of them have been stolen from by employees.
The other 90 just don't know it.
I mean, substantial amounts. Substantial amounts. And the majority of them won't do anything about it. Well, I don't want to be in the press. I don't want people to find out. Just terminate them, go away. I'm telling you, if you believe in values, you call the police, you prosecute them, you do the fullest extent, you make a message, right? If we knew that you got in a lot of trouble when these things happen, it wouldn't send everybody away. It wouldn't keep everybody from stealing. But some folks say that's not worth it. It's just not worth it. What would you add to that list, Steve?
I would say trust. And for us, that in any organization I've worked in all honesty, trust is, it's kind of a multiple, it kind of goes different ways. Trust that I'm going to trust you that you're going to do the right thing and I don't have to micromanage you, and I'm empowering you. Trust in each other across the team that, that we're going to operate in a good way and we're going to have each other's back. I think trust is one of those things that is easily lost. It's hard to earn, and so it's a delicate value. When you give trust to someone and then they violate the trust, that hurts. But, we want to be a company that trusts our employees and trusts our clients and customers first and, operates with grace. When people foul up, is there enough that we can do?
I love that. There's so many stories. Vince Lombardi is one of the greatest coaches to in the NFL, and very controlling, very controlling. Most of them were, very controlling. Yet, Bart Starr after your establishment, called all of his own plays. All of his own plays on offense. Trust, right? When you're tough, when you're demanding, but then people do meet your expectations, but people do share your values. And Starr was a leader. He's only like 5'9", believe it or not, 160, 70 pounds. I mean, quarterbacks back in the 60s were not very big guys like they are now, He turned loose. Tom Brady, same way. Manning, same way, right? You don't control somebody who has proven themselves. You give them latitude to be, right, a leader and to bring their expertise, their wisdom, their, force to bear. Al, what would you add to that list?
Well, I guess it's a matter of priority. You got to assume integrity, and so depending on what your team looks at, they need to be a team player.
Okay.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I like that. We can't do it by ourselves. I can't do it by myself. You can't do it by yourself. If you're going to be a jerk and you don't play with the team, it's funny. You guys are just making me think about all these mantras that my boss used to talk about. One of them was the team is always more important than any one person. So you hurt the team, you're out. Oh, you're important. You're great. You're awesome. But you're not more important than the team. So if your attitude, if your negativity, you're violating the policies and procedures because you think you're better, right? If you're not team first, I don't need you, right? The other thing he said was trust everyone, Michael. Trust everyone. And then he smiled and he said, but cut the cards. Right? So you go out and make your calls, right? But then if you're new, I'm going to follow up. I understand you met our new rep yesterday. Were they professional? Did they greet you professionally? We're just trying to check. New rep? I didn't meet a new rep yesterday. Like 2, 3, 4 calls, We trust them, but we're still going to hold them accountable, right? That's what you do. A lot of leaders, it's so funny. Wow, people should just do their jobs. Why do I have to follow up? Why do I have to hold accountable? I'm so busy. Why don't people just do what's right? It's just human nature. But if they know that they're going to be held accountable, they're okay with it. People say, I can't believe you're following up. If they say that out loud, you know you got something wrong. Because you know what? Check on me. Any day you want. Any day you want. And I'm okay with it. I don't have anything to hide, right? So transformational is this final point. And I appreciate you sharing this. All of these are great core values and a part of many great strong culture companies. But if we set the tone and model it, and we have policies, procedures, right, that align well with it and integrate with our values, then it becomes reality. And I love this word, authenticity, right? When you start talking about integrity, you say, just watch Steve work. Just pay attention to Steve, because if you pay attention to Steve and how he deals with people, how he approaches his job, you're going to get what integrity means. So you see it, right? You don't just see a definition, you see it actualized with a person. And people go, okay, I got it. Now I know what integrity in this organization means. And that kind of authenticity can be powerful. Because now they're setting the bar high, they're setting expectations, they're telling you what they expect, and you're seeing other people live that out. And then you're saying, I can do that too. So now instead of, somebody whispering in your ear, hey, you're working too hard, you're making us look bad, right? You join in with high performers. You want to be a high performer because, the tone is excellence. Think about this, whether you call it a tidal wave, you think about a stone, right? You put a little pebble, so you're sitting on a creek bank, and it's not a big creek, and you can kind of see the ripples to the pond or the lake the other side, and you throw a pebble in. Well, that pebble gets going pretty good there, right? But eventually, it'll fade, right? The energy will fade. You throw a rock in there, and it's a bigger wave, but eventually it'll fade. If you're consistently throwing pebbles, you will see a trend where it will become what I call resonant kind of behavior. But maybe that wave, maybe that ripple, and it starts to build energy like a tidal wave, right? Maybe it'll hit a boulder. You've seen those beautiful pictures of the Northwest coastline. You see these big boulders out from the beach, and that wave crashes against a boulder. That's that person that's in the way, right? So you want to move those boulders so that the energy and the resonance of all that you're trying to do, all that you're trying to accomplish, cannot have any obstacles. And when you have people that all share the same values, and you've been successful at aligning your policies and procedures with those values, you yourself are modeling those values along with your leadership team, you've got a chance for true resonance. We have authenticity and resonance. To me, you've got a team full of trust, right? You've got mutual respect, and you don't just have values espoused. You've got values enacted and truly values actualized. And ultimately, that's what culture is. When you look at Apple, you can't talk about Apple without Steve Jobs or Wozniak. Now, Wozniak exited early, but it still wouldn't be Apple without Woz. It could not. Southwest could never be Southwest without Herb Kelleher. It's impossible. It would be something dramatically different, right? Walmart, impossible to have Walmart without Sam Walton. So you are key, right? When you're the owner, when you're one of the key leaders, you are key at impacting the values in a dramatic way. And the beauty of it is, if you think about it in a process, you can move your values, you can improve them, you can change them so that they become more of what you want. One way is by policies and procedures, make sure they're aligning well and supporting your values that you're espousing. Another way is to bring people in who have the it, right, who want to be that kind of person, and want to support and meet those expectations. So it's people and processes in order to have this kind of inspiring culture that really everyone wants to be a part of. All right, so I'm going to wrap up. Any comments, questions? Anybody want to share anything from their background relating to culture before we call it?
I'll just share one thing. I like what you have on your outline here, Michael, leading by design. I mean, I was at another conference recently, and they talked about that, lead by design instead of circumstance. And this can be done very intentionally. If you're very intentional about it, you can have a winning culture. But it does take the leadership living it every single day, and I've seen where that's worked and I've seen where that's not worked. In a large company, and even in our company today, David very much wants a positive family culture where people feel valued, where they want to come to work, where the bar is high, but we have fun and enjoy working together. And that isn't going to happen by accident. That's going to happen by design.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing, and it's got to be done from the very highest in the organization.
Yeah.
It's got to trickle down. It can't come up from the bottom, because it's got to be supported.
That's true. It's very true. If the leader isn't doing it and walking it every day, and the leadership team as well, just like you said, it's going to be pretty words. It'll be the book of the month that somebody's read, and it'll just fade away. And it'll fade away fast too, because people won't buy into it.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And it puts a lot of pressure, a lot of onus on us as leaders, but it's the only way. Leadership's hard work. Yeah, it's hard work. And if you want something special, you want to be the Southwest in your segment, your industry, it doesn't get there by accident. It does not. And that's what's so fun about reading and studying. And I'd encourage you, I know, Tom, you've been an owner for, 20, 25 years or so, to read about the strong culture companies and see how they did it, and see how you can take your company to another level relating to organizational culture. Right?
I think it's important too to understand the different generations. How do you really motivate the latest generation? And it's different. And tools you use, it doesn't mean the integrity is not there. It's just what they hold as value and how you tap into those values.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there with that expertise, but you're right. You don't, if you have respect, right, for all your people, you're going to realize that people in their 50s, right, the folks that are baby boomers, are going to, when you look at the anthropological kind of view of the world, are going to be very different than the millennials, right? The guys in their 20s and 30s, they're different. Some are more similar than others, but generally speaking, as a generation, there's dramatic differences. Not right or wrong, right? They're a product of their time and culture and history, just like we are, right? So it's just different, and we've been guilty, I think, of judging, right? Criticizing and judging inappropriately that it's certain things not as good. Certain things are actually better, right? But I do think we need to understand that they are different and therefore to approach them differently. And when we get here to the directional aspect, our policies, procedures, and all that should take into consideration this new generation and make sure that it's what they want, what they need in order to put them in a situation where they'd be excited and motivated about their future. All right?
I'd like for you to comment on one thing before we leave. You know, it's, when I first heard it, I really objected to it, and hopefully you can straighten me out a little bit. When you hear this phrase, lead from behind.
Yeah, I think lead from behind, lead from the front, there's value. It really probably is a contextual example. There's a time when leaders should get off their behind and get out front and be visible. But then there's a time when they should, be back instructing, coaching, right? Coaching folks, teaching folks, and then kind of turning them loose to do what they need to do. And it really depends on the situation and the leader. Some people need to lead more from behind because they're too controlling, they're too out front, they're too hands-on. And some people, need to lead from the front because they're disengaged, they're too uninvolved in the company, so they need to get more out front. Probably the person that is going to have a strong culture company is going to do well and balanced in both, where they're going to be coaches, mentors, teachers, and they're going to be visible without too much involvement, too much control over the company. Because great people, when you assemble this team of leaders and you're too controlling, you're too involved, you're going to run them off. Great talent, highly motivated, driven talent needs room to spread their wings. They need room to maneuver. And if that leader can't let go of the reins, you're going to have revolving doors around you. And so you've got to adjust. And a lot of leaders have a hard time. They say Jobs was terrible, early on. And remember the movie, he kind of had a pivotal point where he realized that he had made some errors in his leadership style. So it's not unusual for strong leaders to have problems with letting go. But nonetheless, you will let go or they will go.
The good to great example is a really strong one too, of the leaders that have built great companies and that it was all about them and about their personality.
Yeah.
There was no legacy after that because they didn't empower people around them. They were afraid to hire people that were smarter than them. When you build those great companies, even the companies the size that we are, that's still got to be true. I mean, it can't be all about you. You have to be strong and lead, but you're right, it's a balance. Be the voice, always speak the message, the vision and the values, but then empower others to carry it as well. Otherwise, you don't have a legacy. You've got however long you're there, and then that's it.
Many owners are the reason why the company's as big as they are, and they're why the company's only as big as they are.
Yeah.
Because they to get to that next level, they gotta let go, hire inspired talent, turn them loose to get to that level. And that's why you have a lot of people that are, at a certain size, because that's the size they are comfortable controlling and managing their whole life, right? And so if you're good at developing talent, identifying, developing talent, then that's the folks that have gone on to just amazing results.
What's your last comment there in parentheses? Get rid of what?
Get rid of the boulders, the analogy of the ripples, the boulders, the bad folks, the folks that are not living and embracing. Somebody might come and say, I'm not exactly, if somebody's a devout Christian, I'm not a Christian, but I get your values, and I'm all about embracing them, right? If you're in I do a lot of work in the technical fields, science and engineering and so forth, a lot of foreigners, a lot of Muslims, a lot of the Indians, Hindus and so forth. You don't have to be of that religious persuasion, you just have to embrace whatever their values are, right? And so, we want people that embrace our values. If we're gonna sit and argue about a value, right, we're not gonna get very far. You've got to support my values, right? And if you don't, you're a boulder. You're in the way. I'm trying to develop some momentum here. And it's hitting against you and it's stopping. There's no resonance, and you're one of the reasons why there's no resonance. I need you out, right? And I may love you. You may be a neighbor. You may be a friend. You may be my cousin, my brother, whatever. But if you're not embracing my values, and I happen to be the owner or the president, right? I've got to move you out to get somebody in there who does. And that's the who. You guys are on target. I appreciate this very much. Thank you. And we'll call it a wrap. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man.